want to welcome you to the celebration of the life of the Reverend Dr. William Bill Peterson. It is such a blessing in this space here at Claremont United Church of Christ that we have so many clergy people who are part of this community, including Dr. Peterson. Dr. Peterson did incredible work through his lifetime of ministry, especially as an interim minister. Interim ministry is incredibly difficult work to go into a space and to make sure that the ground is tilled and prepared for the next pastor to come in. It requires having deep conversations with the congregation, having the courage to confront difficult issues, to have hard conversations, and to love a community so much that when you invest all of that time and effort, you do the hard work of stepping away to prepare them for the next chapter. And Dr. Peterson did that work admirably. He also did that work within his family and friends to prepare them for the time in which he would no longer be with us, so that we would have this moment to celebrate his life and to reflect on all of the love he showed to the people around him, and to be able to do that work to be prepared for the departure from this life as he now goes to his great heavenly reward, being embraced by a God who enfolds him and declares, "Well done, good and faithful servant." And so we are honored today to celebrate that good servant. The service will be officiated by the Reverend Dr. Lolita, who will now lead us in an opening prayer.
Thank you, Jacob. Before we begin, before we pray, I'd like to just ask you all to just take a deep breath. Settle in, and as you breathe, maybe bring an image to mind of Bill sitting in his recliner on the beach, saying, "All is well, and all shall be well." We gather in worship to thank God for the blessing received in Bill, a wonderful husband, brother, father, grandfather, friend, and pastor. Expressions of sorrow and tears, love and laughter are welcome, but please hold any applause. As we worship in the presence, please turn off your electronic devices so you can be fully present to the presence. In your bulletin is a page for memories. And at the time for reflection, you'll be invited to write your memories and to give them to the family afterwards. Now I invite you to join me in prayer. Gracious and holy God, Spirit of all that is loving and kind, we give thanks for the opportunity to be together, to celebrate the light and love life of your precious, beloved child, Bill. May we all be opened and feel your presence as we gather and are warmed and encouraged by memories. May grief be lifted by the love and comfort offered. May our lives be blessed so we are open to joy and feel our hearts, minds, and lives touched by your light in Bill and in each other. Amen. I invite you to stand or remain seated as you are comfortably able to join in singing Bill's words, "Speak Truth to Power," on page 5 of your bulletin. Please be seated and we'll hear the readings.
A reading from Ecclesiastes, verse 3, 1 through 8. For everything there is a season, and a time for every matter under heaven, a time to be born, and a time to die, a time to plant, and a time to pluck up what is planted, a time to kill, and a time to heal, a time to break down, and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to throw away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. Blessings with this reading.
Like Gail and Bill, I particularly appreciate the message coming from the Quakers. Be patterns, be examples in all countries, places, islands, nations, wherever you come, that your carriage and life may preach among all sorts of people, and to them, then you will come to walk cheerfully over the world, answering that of God in everyone, whereby in them you may be a blessing and make the witness of God in them to bless you.
Okay, I made it. Hi, I'm Shannon Peterson. I'm Bill's oldest daughter. In the early years, my dad was born June 5th, 1942. In the middle of World War II, to Helen and Dale Peterson in Chicago, Illinois. He grew up in Moline, a small post-war 3-bedroom, right around 1,000 square foot home with his 3 siblings, Sheila, Jack, and Linnea. Hopefully they're online watching right now. After high school, he attended the University of Illinois, graduated with majors in physics and engineering. During his last years at U of I was born in April 1965. It was not planned, but he told me that he would not have changed a thing about bringing me into this crazy world. By the time we were in the middle of the Vietnam War. All these wars might be one of the many reasons he was such an advocate for peace. A man of peace, ministry, and family. After graduation, he moved our family of 3 to Seattle, Washington, where he worked for the Boeing company and where he was recruited out of college. By day, he was an engineer, and by night, he was a church youth leader. These were conflicting priorities, because during his day job, he supported the war effort at Boeing, and with nights and weekends, he spent helping young men who did not want to go to war avoid the draft. My brother Stephen was born in Bellevue, Washington, 1969. And by the early 70s, Dad felt the call to join the ministry. He moved our family, now of 4, back to Chicago, where he pursued his degree in counseling and ministry. Upon graduation, he was called to ministry in the western suburbs of Chicago, while also serving as a counselor at one of the first holistic health centers in Hinsdale, Illinois. In 1983, our mom and dad decided to go their separate ways. This was a difficult time for all of us. Then, in 1985, he married Gail Benson, the love of his life. We became a blended family of 6, including Kristen and Michelle. Soon after, he was called to serve as senior minister out here in California, where many of you have also been blessed with his ministry. My dad was an incredible listener. He would listen and not give advice unless he felt you truly needed it. He was the kind of dad who didn't just tell me what mattered in life, he showed me. Whether it was through his actions, his words, or the way he treated others. I'm still learning. He had a way of making you feel like you were the most important person in the room. He was a supportive dad. One of my favorite memories is when I was about 14, he came into my room to wake me up for church on a Sunday. I put the covers over my head and made a moan. He said, "Do you want to go to church today?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Okay. I don't want you to go to church because it's something you have to do. I want you to go to church because it's something you want to do." He supported choices, and going to church was a choice. From that point forward, he supported my choices, even when those choices were really poor ones. In times, his work of peace and ministry would sink in as I eventually moved back to Seattle and found my own UCC church almost 20 years later. And after I decided, 20 years later after I had decided church wasn't for me, in later years, Dad would come to visit and provide pulpit supply at my church, Alki UCC in Seattle. He also volunteered his time to help us through a difficult transition, bestowing his interim ministry skills on our church. as a volunteer. He was a loving dad. He was the person in my life I knew I could turn to, no matter what. He was my cheerleader. And while I will always miss him, it brings me comfort to know the best parts of him live on in all of us. In all of us, our family, his friends, and his colleagues. I will do my best to carry on with his love, wisdom, and listening. It is not lost on me how blessed I am to call Reverend Dr. Bill Peterson my dad.
Hi, my name is Kenton Fossler. I am the grandson of William B. Peterson. My grandfather has been a very large part of my life. Whether it was when I was a child, he was the father figure that I needed, or whether as an adult, he was the grandpa that I was able to take care of in his final hours, or at least his final weeks. He has taught me millions of things, and I know that he has affected the lives of hundreds, if not thousands, of people within his lifetime. He has taught me how to be a human, how to think, how to love, how to be kind to others that I don't know who they are. William B. Peterson loved all. He loved all because he himself was truly a kind man, a kind, loving individual. I will always remember the times that we went to Grumpy School, because I was a tough child who didn't want to listen to my teachers nor my mother. So he would pick me up after school and help me with homework, help me think for myself, understand life for what it really is, and rather than what I actually want to look at it. I will always love my grandfather for what he has done for other people, for who he was in my life and the lives of others. I'm sorry, but he was the best part in my life and a lot of others. And I don't know how to exactly speak about that sometimes. I just want everyone to know that William B. Peterson loved all. He loved me, he loved his family. He was a kind man, and I hope that we all could remember him for who and what he did for the people here today. Thank you very much.
My name's Steve Peterson. I'm William Peterson's very fortunate son. If I may borrow a couple words from him. Hello. The sounds of children are welcome. The sounds of laughter are welcome. And if you feel like praising the Lord at any time, please do so. We are so fortunate to have my father in this world. I can no longer claim this good fortune solely for myself. This man, this person, my father, peace, caring, modesty. I'm so fortunate to have this person to talk to encourage my dreams, to put his hand on my shoulder and deeply care when I'm in pain. I live my life with the guide of not disappointing my father. Little did I know, I could never disappoint my father. His love was caring and unconditional. Please let that love follow all of us. I live my, if there are troubled times, help, listen, and lead with compassion. When our times are happy and safe, well then, praise the Lord. Feel your happiness deeply. There will be difficult times, and there will be times to celebrate. Please join me in celebrating my father, the Reverend Dr. William Peterson, and the incredible good fortune for this world and this humanity. We had nearly a century with his love and guidance. Now it's up to us. Be peaceful. Be caring. Take care of each other. I know my father's love for us is eternal. Cherish this feeling and carry it with you always.
Hi, my name is Kaylin, and I had the absolute privilege of being Bill's granddaughter. Now, saying goodbye feels wrong, like closing a book when the story still had so many chapters left to unfold. I always knew intellectually that one day I would have to attend my grandparents' funeral, but a part of me never truly believed that day would arrive so soon. It feels like yesterday I had the precious opportunity to see my grandpa just a few weeks before he passed. That visit was a gift, a chance to connect with him on a deeper level, to ask him questions about his life and his journey. One question in particular has stayed with me. I asked him if he was afraid to die. His answer, delivered with a quiet certainty. He said no, because he already experienced everything he could have ever wanted. In that moment, I understood the depth of his contentment and the richness of a life well lived. My grandpa was always the smartest person in any room. He had a sharp wit and a love for intellectual pursuits and an enjoyment of The New Yorker. He appreciated the magazine's insightful articles, clever cartoons, sophisticated humor, and of course, the crossword puzzle. It was a small window into the working of his brilliant mind. I cherish the memories of those summer afternoons spent glued to the TV, cheering on the Cubs. He would patiently explain the intricacies of double plays, the strategies behind stolen bases, his voice filled with a passion that transformed even a simple strikeout into something exciting. He had a way of making the ordinary feel extraordinary. And going back even further to my early childhood, I remember him as the most wonderful tea party guest a little girl could ask for. He would graciously sip from my tiny flower teacups, pretending to savor imaginary finger sandwiches. His participation making my make-believe world feel so real and important. He possessed a remarkable ability to make life seem effortless. It was as if bills always got paid, cars always started, and scraped knees always healed with a kiss and a Band-Aid, even though I know now he secretly worried more than he let on. He embodied the true definition of strength, not the kind defined by muscles, but the quiet, unwavering determination of a steadfast heart and a steady hand to hold during inevitable storms. And of course, Maggie, our goofy Cocker Spaniel. Those walks through the park with her leash tangled around his hand and his pockets overflowing with dog treats were pure magic. And who could forget the Gatorades? My grandpa loved lemon lime Gatorades. They were his absolute favorite. He always shared, even though he probably needed it more than I did. It was a small gesture, but it spoke volumes about his generous spirit. One of my favorite memories is shopping with my grandma while my grandpa would sit in Barnes & Noble reading a book. We would spend hours browsing through stores, finding treasures, and of course creating more memories. But the absolute best part of those outings wasn't the shopping itself. It was coming home and putting on a fashion show for my grandpa. He would sit patiently, a twinkle in his eye, as I modeled each new outfit, offering his heartfelt compliments and making me feel like a runway star. Now, my grandpa's love for my grandma was a beautiful thing to witness. It was a love built on respect, admiration, and unwavering devotion. They were a true team, partners in every sense of the word, supporting each other through thick and thin, sharing a lifetime of memories. But his love extended far beyond my grandma, encompassing his entire family, his children, grandchildren, siblings, friends, and colleagues. He was the cornerstone of our family, the glue that held us together. He cherished every family gathering, every holiday celebration, every opportunity to be surrounded by the people he loved the most in the world. He beamed with pride when talking about his family's accomplishments, big or small. He was the most generous and non-judgmental person I have ever known. He loved everyone equally with a heart of gold that shined brightly for all to see. He never hesitated to offer a helping hand, a listening ear, or a word of encouragement. His generosity wasn't just about material things. It was about giving his time, his attention, and his unwavering support. He made everyone feel valued and accepted, no matter their background or circumstances. He truly did have a heart of gold. He was the kind of man who made the world a better place simply by being in it. His love for his family was his greatest treasure, and he nurtured it with unwavering devotion. Now, the truth is, I was scared to see him leave, scared of experiencing my real first goodbye. He was supposed to be a constant, a reassuring presence in a world that can often feel so uncertain. He taught me more than just the rules of baseball and the perfect way to share a lemon lime Gatorade. He taught me about unconditional love, about the resilience in face of adversity, about the quiet, unwavering strength that binds a family together. He showed us how to find peace in simple moments and how to cherish the time we have with loved ones. Now, he may be physically gone, but his memory will forever hold a place of profound honor in our hearts. His spirit, his love, and his wisdom, these are the legacies he's left with us. We find peace knowing he's no longer in pain, and maybe, just maybe, someday, we get to meet again on a perfect summer afternoon, cheering on the Cubs from the best seats in the house. Until then, rest easy, and we'll take it from here.
Been through love, been through sunshine, been through snow. All the colors of the weather. We've been through high, every corner of the sky. And still we're holding on together. And you got all my love, whether it rains or pours, I'm all yours. You've got all my love, whether it rains, it remains. till I die. Let me hold you if you cry. Be my 1, 2, 3 forever. 'Cause you got all my love. Whether it rains or pours, I'm all yours. You've got all my love. Whether it rains, it remains. You've got all my love.
a celebration of life. It's a time to give thanks to God and to seek to understand God's gifts of life, death, and new life. But for some of us, the grief is still heavy. Grief can take our breath away. It can be a sharp pain that feels like it will never stop. So I invite you to imagine grief like a large, sharp boulder that falls off of a hillside into the water, into the river. And at first, the water bounces over it and plumes just shoot up in the air around this giant, sharp boulder. But over time, the water erodes the sharp edges. It smooths the rock, and the river flow is smoothed. The rock does not disappear. But gradually, the sharp edges are smoothed. In grateful worship, we support one another to ease our grief and allow us to celebrate the gifts of God and weave them into our lives and our hearts and take them into our actions. Sharing memories and gifts, we can receive an ease and a smoothing and a soothing of the grief. And then we can choose to be transformed by love and joy. So what gifts of God were given to us in Bill Peterson? There's so much to say and really no adequate words. You've already heard eloquent speeches by his family members. So many gifts. In addition to being a wonderful family man and husband, he was a pastor, a teacher, a mentor, a confidant, a colleague, a spiritual guide, and friend. But the truest gift that we received was how we felt when we were with him. Bill exuded love, peace, calm, except maybe when he was watching the Cubs game, kindness, generosity, gentleness, compassion, and harmony. With Bill, people felt seen, heard, and accepted for who they were and who they were seeking and yearning to become. I met Bill and Gail at the Irvine United Congregational Church, UCC, 30 years ago. Hard to believe. But it was not coincidence or serendipity, but divine blessing that our paths crossed many times over the years. When Bill conducted the AIDS memorial service at the first Pride Festival I ever attended, he was filled with compassion and care for those who were grieving and for those who were even afraid to be seen there. His love continues to bloom in all the lives he touched there and everywhere. Bill taught and mentored many pastors in interim ministry, and I was one of them. He was patient and encouraging. His generous intellect, gentleness with people in crisis, and calmness in boundary setting continued to bless countless congregations. Bill guided many UCC congregations in the challenging interim period with his incredible kindness, bringing harmony and peace where there was conflict and fear, and opening up new opportunities for them. He also served as interim pastor with the Whittier First Friends Church, a Quaker meeting where I am privileged to be. Quakers? A group who worship in silence and are pacifists? The Spirit knew Bill would love the opportunity to explore the tradition, and it fit with Bill's deep, lifelong commitment to peace. He encouraged the friends, and they nourished his contemplative soul. Bill was a prophet with a heart for justice, peace, and truth. He was a poet with a pen for beauty, creativity, and humor. His prophetic and poetic gifts are powerfully evident in the hymn we sang, and in the poems in the bulletin and the one you'll hear later. Bill experienced joy, spending time with Gail, family, and friends, petting furry companion Maggie, appreciating the beauty of creation and joy in his ministry. He had a zest for life, and he did all he could to appreciate it. And this all alone is a wonderful gift for all of us to have received and to witness. But Bill also lived a deeply faithful life, filled with love and peace. When Bill experienced health challenges, he brought his spiritual grounding to it. He engaged the spiritual questions about experiences in his journey of life, and that brought him closer to God. Bill showed us how to find God's peace in living and dying. I reached out to many people from the churches Bill served, talked to them on the phone and wrote down some of their comments, and they sent me emails, and one thing they all confirmed was that he was one of the most gentle, loving souls, a great listener, a deep well of spiritual energy, a kind, thoughtful, encouraging, and supportive person, and overwhelmingly generous with his expertise and ministry. They all saw what we saw: evidence of a life lived focused and centered in God, shining God's light and love through him. We heard a reading from Ecclesiastes, and some might read it with a fatalistic tone. I mean, if there's a time for everything, if everything will all just happen, why care or make any effort? But Bill lived Jesus' admonishment to be wise as serpents and gentle as doves. He knew that God does not control. Instead, Bill found peace understanding everything exists in God and in God's time. The words of Bill's hymn encourage us to co-create with God, to speak truth, serve with justice and love, cast out fear, and shine the hopeful light of faith for ourselves and for the beloved community we seek to build. Together, we walk the path of Jesus, seek direction from the Spirit, and are grounded in God's peace. Bill knew God in the silence and in the busy life around him. God was the peace that centered his life, the peace that motivated him to speak and work for peace with and for everyone. God's peace gave him the assurance of love every day in everything throughout his life and his dying. and God's love greeted him in his new life. And so we remember that, and God gave us the gift of living a life of inner peace. Bill listened, spoke, and acted thoughtfully rather than from fear. He had an unmistakable ability to enjoy each moment. He had a self-confidence that came from love and not from judging at all. He acted to bring harmony in his life, his family, and the churches he served. And he had frequent and overwhelming episodes of appreciation and gave and absorbed love more and more every moment of his life. Bill lived as a pattern and an example, answering that of God in every one. We all exist in God, but God's now got Bill's spirit in a different, new way. Bill's light is a bright beacon that will live on in our minds, hearts, and souls. It has not been extinguished, but it's now distributed to all of us to carry, to encourage the light that is within each of us. Today and in the days to come, we will remember and share stories of his life, love, and example to encourage us. We thank God for the incredible gifts of life and the new, wonderful life of Bill Peterson. Amen. If you will look in your bulletin, you will see that this is a time for reflection. It's a time to listen to the Spirit of God and to write a memory that you have for Bill that you can share with the family if you're so led. But I also want to encourage you to use the back of your bulletin to write something that you will take home with you, a new way of looking at life from Bill Peterson and his wonderful life. Let us be in a time of reflection. We will now join together in a hymn, Amazing Grace, in your bulletin. I invite you to stand as you are comfortably able or remain seated as you need to. Please be seated. After the closing prayer, we'll hear a blessing from Bill. And listening to the toccata will then complete our worship. After we finish listening, please join the family in the Louise Roberts room for reception. Please join me in prayer. Loving God, this celebration was filled with the words and images of Bill. Our time with him was too short, but always precious. Bill taught us that life is filled not with coincidence or serendipity, but divine blessing. Help us to be open and awake enough to notice and be grateful. You promise to be near us always, to bless our joy and accompany us in sorrow. You blessed us with Bill, and now he lives again in you. May all Bill brought to our lives and the love he shared remain with us in memory and guide us in our living. Holy One, thank you for the priceless blessing of Bill. We release your servant to go in peace. He has completed his labors, and your word has been fulfilled. Through his life, our eyes have seen the salvation which you have prepared in the sight of everyone, a light to reveal you to all. We take comfort that he lives on in our minds and hearts, and that we shall see him again. Amen. I read this on behalf of Gail, but these are Bill's words, and he was a pastor, so he should give us the final blessing. Something there is moving through this house as autumn and winter winds clear skies to reveal stars. So a prophetic gust moves through here, carrying us along in her wake. This same current now clears one away and arrives another, a new presence, a new love, a new spirit. Ancestors ask, from whence blows this zephyr? From frigid airs dropping and warming in Santa Ana's, from the heavens, always chaotic, churning highs and lows, the weather of the spirit? From the simplest turning of earth in space, and we on her carousel? Or does this wind create itself from a moving, from a mystery, from a cross? We are her children, children of the wind, carried as dust to some new possibility never before imagined.